Let's take a look at this in action. When we add a new line item with the quantity and unit price, the subtotal of the line item gets updated. Also, the total purchase request cost gets updated when a new line item is added and its new subtotal is updated. Also, when we change the quantity, we can see that the line item's subtotal and the total purchase request costs are updated again. Let's see how we can add a declare expression rule for a target property. Let's create a new declare expression rule to calculate the purchase order total cost, which is the sum of the line item total cost, the tax, and the shipping cost. From the Case Designer, open the outline view by clicking the Configure Process Details link under the Order Placement stage of the purchase order case. For any assignment, we can add an action that can be taken by the assignee by clicking the Add Action link. We can also add relevant fields that we want to display in the section by clicking Add Fields. This section will be included in the flow action. Since a default action is already in place for this assignment, we don't need to click the Add Action link to add more actions unless we need more flow actions. Edit the default flow action and change the name to Place an Order. Tab out of this text box and we see that the Add Fields link is now active. Click the Add Fields link to add new properties. This opens a dialog box where we can edit properties that we want to display in the section, which will be included in the flow action rule, as mentioned before. We can mark the added field as calculated, required, and read-only. We can also add more fields by clicking the Add Fields link. Add a new field, Purchase Order Total, by typing that name in the text box, and change the data type to decimal and then select the Calculated checkbox. As soon as this checkbox is selected, we see the Define Calculation link. We can use this link to create the declare expression for the property we added. Click the Define Calculation link to create the declare expression for this property. The target property, where we want to store the total purchase order cost, is Purchase Order Total and is being set to the value of the PY label by default. If the rule is not already checked out, check it out to edit the expression. Enter the expression to be calculated as the value of adding the line item total cost, tax, and shipping cost, then click Save to save the rule. Click the Change Tracking tab. Note that the target value is calculated whenever the input value changes. So, whenever any one of the three input values change, the total purchase order cost is calculated automatically by the system. This default technique of calculating the value of the target property is called forward chaining. Forward chaining means that PRPC computes the target property value automatically each time, when any of the input values in the expression change. To reiterate, the forward chaining technique is set to the Change Tracking tab by using the default Whenever Inputs Change option. Close this rule to return to the Case Designer tab. We see the link to the calculated checkbox is changed from Define Calculation to Open Expression. We can click on Open Expression if we need to make changes to the calculation. Click OK to close the Adding Fields dialog box. Click Save in the outline view. This saves the changes to the flow as well as the newly created flow action and the section rule with the fields added. Click the Open Section link to open the section rule. This section has only one property, Purchase Order Total, to display. This rule can be checked out and modified to display more properties and modify the layout if necessary. As we have learned, declare expressions update a calculated value, or the target property, when any value in its expression changes. To automatically update the UI, an Enable Expression Calculation checkbox is selected on the Advanced tab of a harness or HTML tab of a flow action. Enabling it in the harness, such as Perform Automatically, updates all the user interfaces involved in the flow irrespective of the setting in the flow action. Disabling that checkbox in the harness and enabling that in a specific flow action updates that flow action user interface only. During the development phase, if any PRPC architect wants to troubleshoot and know what properties are set through declarative rules, they can use Declarative Rules Inspector. The Declarative Rules Inspector shows us what properties are set declaratively. From the PRPC Developer Portal footer, select Inspection Prefs, Declaratives. When the inspection is enabled, a checkmark appears next to the Declaratives entry on the Inspection Prefs menu. When we create a new purchase request case, a red D appears next to the subtotal field and in the total purchase request cost field to indicate the use of a declarative rule for those fields. Hovering over the D shows the target property used in the declarative rule. We have learned how declarative processing can be useful with its automatic computations and actions, and different declarative rule types in their purpose. In addition, we learned how to create a declare expression rule with the forward chaining configuration and how they can be used to calculate values automatically.